please join me in welcoming Reverend Karen Russo.
Aw, thank you. Thank you, Linda. Very sweet. Mwah. Oh, well, good morning, Center for Spiritual Living, Salt Lake. Here's what I want to say right up front. You are looking fabulous. So, exactly. Well, isn't it true? It's like we see it in each other. So I've been with you a couple of times over the last few years, but my last time with you, I think, was the fall of 2012. So this is my first time to see you looking good in this particular way. So I so honor you in your wonderful celebration about being here for a year. And it's perfect, isn't it, that Reverend Marty and the community said, hey, can you come when we're in our series on Thrive? And I'm loving that the idea of Thrive is here with us as a conversation for our spiritual expression. All right. You are spiritual beings having a human experience. You've heard that? How many of you have heard that? Yes. And how many of you believe it? All right, thank you. That's a good percentage. Well, thank you. Me too. And what my goal and ministry and work in the world is how do we have the stuff that we experience with money be a beautiful way that we express our spirituality? And this is such an important conversation, not just because as individuals we may want a little more of this or a little less of that, or that we've got a struggle and we want to get out of it, but not just as an individual goal or accomplishment or ambition, but really our world needs us at our spiritual money mastery best. If you look at our cultural messages, particularly in first world conversations, there's a lot that's a little bit confusing when it comes to money. So sometimes we see glamorous depictions of wealth and money, but then we hear a message that the rich might be greedy and should be resented. Or we see depictions of others as poor who might be needy and should be pitied. Or then there's a confusing message around giving, but not a real strong message around receiving. And what I've noticed is folks like us who are first world people with so much to be grateful for. I mean, this is me. I'm going to get all up in your face here. Okay, this is the toughest part of the whole conversation. We're doing fine. So right now, if you notice, we've got clean water, climate controlled, safe place to sleep for pretty much everybody in the room tonight, and unbelievable freedoms and opportunities and potentialities. And for each one of you, hasn't your life been filled with amazing blessings? Some you could have anticipated and some you couldn't. Is that true? Yes. And yet, even for folks like us, what it can feel like is there's not enough. Something might go wrong later. What could happen? And what our world can feel like, and this is an image that I think says it all. You get this? It's the world tightening its belt. And tightening the belt is a pretty intense image. It's the idea that if you're hungry and you tighten your belt, you won't feel as hungry. But that experience of something's wrong, there's not enough, what might happen in the future, that experience is real for many people, even though in the present moment our needs are met. And so that's what I think this conversation, when we think about thriving, I want to invite you into is how do I have an experience of the vitality and divinity of God through my experience of money right now? We're going to look this morning at three things. What is money? So a fresh idea for you to think about what money is that can be in many ways more empowering. A reminder about who are you, because I want you to be your own best practice, your own mental equivalent, your own inspiration. And we'll take a look at what's the God idea. So what's the important idea about spiritual source that we want to be living with our experience of money. And we'll begin with this idea about what is money. So you'll see there's some symbols about currency. And typically, we think about money as being this thing that has some power. So it's this stuff that we either have or don't have, we want or don't want, we think is good or we think is bad, but it has some kind of energetic that has a control over us. And I want to introduce you to a fresh way of thinking about money. And that is, what if money was neutral? What if money was just a symbol of supply, of communication, of transaction? What if money inherently didn't have any meaning except for the meaning you and I place on it? What if money was more like language or technology? Those are things that don't inherently have any meaning except for what's applied to them. So money, neutral, but the meaning about money is powerful. So think about it. We're the ones who look at the screen and say, those digits, that's good. Those digits, that's bad. That amount, that's a lot. That amount, it's not enough. The meaning is only applied by what we give it. Money, neutral. Meaning, powerful. And you and I, we're the meaning makers. And when you start to adopt that idea, what begins to happen is we get this sensation of, I am here in the first world. There's 1 billion of my brothers and sisters who tonight aren't going to have clean water and a safe place to sleep and be able to care for their kids at the most core and basic level. And I'm not saying we should pity or feel bad about where we're at, but there's a little bit where I want to say, brothers and sisters, the meaning we could make is we are privileged and have an opportunity to really make some meaning with our money that could be really powerful. You and I are the meaning makers. All right, that was me being tough. Can you handle it? Yeah, you can. All right, that's what I thought, that when you have the opportunity to think in this way, which is empowering about money, what starts to happen is you're the one who starts to say, I'm a spiritual giver here at the center, and every week or month when I give from a place of generosity and gratitude, and my amount, whether I'm at what Linda has is a good mental equivalent for us, $100,000 in your own income, and then 10,000 to the center. That's why not there or something better? So that's a good mental equivalent, and we're the ones who could also say, my income might be in smaller numbers of digits, but my spiritual giving is done with generosity and compassion and grace and joy and gratitude. You're powerful. You're the meaning maker in your money life. So go ahead and turn to a friend and say, I'm the meaning maker. Yes, you are. And who are you? So you can see I've used this image. I love the joy that's coming out of this individual's visage and energy and face. Reverend Marty and your practitioners and your ministers and your teachers here at this center, the books that you read, the Ernest Holmes work that you do, you're always hearing that message. Essentially, you're a spiritual being. You have a human expression. What it means to be a spiritual being is that you're made in the image and likeness of the divine, so that your inherent, essential, eternal nature is infinite and whole and prosperous and free. That's who you are. Now, what I encourage you to do is to look at your life in a way where you start to say, you know what? That's an idea that I've got it in a certain area of my life. And if you can do it in any area, you can do it with your money. So you've probably heard there's a personal development idea, how you do anything is how you do everything. And sometimes that can be empowering to say, how I do anything is how I could do everything. So think about this. Mental equivalent means it's the level at which you're experiencing something. So you all know that consciousness is the sum total of our patterns of thought, which is the content that moves through mind, emotion, which is our energetic reaction to thought, and then held in place by conversation, by repetition, by intensity. That's what becomes patterns of thinking, which is consciousness, and consciousness creates experience. And consciousness can be developed. That's why you're here. Whether it's by accident or design, something in you knows, I want to develop and up-level my consciousness. That's what inspiration is. We remember our connection to spirit, which helps to rise us up. So I encourage you to be your own mental equivalent. Look at your life and see, where do I already know that the presence of God as abundance and possibility and plenty is fresh and present here in material living? So for example, some of you will look out at Mother Earth and see the mountains and the snow and the sky and see the divine is here. I can feel the presence of God in the beautiful mountain scenery. Others will feel it with their food. They're able to have a spiritual experience around making food sacred and feeling divine energy and vibration. You know, I have a relationship with food or the human body or my animal companions or my children or the beloved, or I can look at a work of art or hear Shemaine sing, and I know God is present, right? So if you can feel it in the art or in a child or in the environment, if you can feel plenty and the divine there, then you can do it with your money. I had a dear friend, a prayer partner, and he said it beautifully. He said, you know what? When it comes to friendships, I feel there's plenty. My friendships are rich, they're mutual, they're easy and graceful. Some of them have changed over time, but I don't regret the past, nor do I worry if I'll have friends in the future. I'm a good friend, and I have good friends, and it's not something I need to worry about. I can express God through how I am in friendship. And if I can do it there, I can do it with my money. Yes. So I want you to kind of feel like, I got this. And in fact, if you like, you could tell a neighbor, you got this. Yes, you do. The God idea. This is the symbol here is the religious science symbol, which is the circle. God has no beginning, no end. And then the V, which is how creation happens. So spiritual idea acted upon by law becomes body manifestation effects. And there's the individual communing with this divine idea. And really, spiritual practice is all about not becoming more spiritual, but remembering the truth of who we are. And all spiritual practice and journey is, I was asleep, now I awake. I forget, I remember. And that can happen within the experience of your 20-minute meditation or your 20-year journey of recovery. You know, you have the same experience. I forgot, now I remember, then I practice. I forget, I remember, I practice. Around money and well-being, there's an important distinction between spiritual source and material channels. So when I say spiritual source, I'm thinking capital S, capital S. Spiritual source, infinite, creative, eternal, unchanging, generative, powerful, the truth of who we are. Spiritual source expresses through material channels. Material channels are things like a secure job, a investment that you have, your real estate portfolio, your good-looking, generous lover, probably your good-looking, generous lover, yeah. Your great downline, your hit record, your big database, you know, your $1 million idea. All of those things are material channels. Now, you know something's a material channel if it has a beginning, a middle, and what? Material channels are wonderful and fabulous. So if you have a generous, good-looking lover, fantastic. The problem with material channels is when we mistakenly think they will do for us something they cannot do. And I think you catch this. Material channels will never give us spiritual security. Spiritual security and well-being and peace and a sense of oneness with the divine can only come through and from connection with spiritual source. Something in us is so wise and knows that. And that's why when we think a material channel is our source of security, something in us will always feel amiss. And I think you all, I see some nods, you all get this. So this is the thing, I have a secure job, but what if it goes, then I won't be secure. And here's what I'll say. Wonderful to have a great profession and a great job and a wonderful employer, but don't get mistaken that that's your spiritual source. It's a material channel that you can respect and appreciate and rise up and be in an excellent relationship with, but it's not your spiritual source. And that is true for your good-looking, generous lover and your great real estate portfolio and all the other things that are material channels. Spiritual source never leaves you. Spiritual source is who you are. And what happens around money and work and profession and business is that when people really get, God is my source, what happens is we start to be less fearful about the future, worried that there won't be channels in the future, and we also get less upset about channels that came and went in the past. And instead, we're more in the present moment. Because where is spiritual source found? Here and now. So this idea this should not be, for those of you that have been coming to the center, this should not be like news that you have never heard before, right? What I'm saying is it's true about money. That when you get really connected to spiritual source, then you can participate in the contribution that you're to make in the world, the giving and receiving of money, the decisions about spending, investing, saving, the choices you'll make around debt and accumulation and contribution and work. You'll make all of that from a place of peace and security that will never leave you. Now, I do have some good news and some bad news about this. Which would you like first? Bad news. Okay, first service wanted good news, but you all are like tough. Like okay, yeah. All right, bad news first. Let's get it. Okay, so the bad news is this, is that most people, when they hear a message like this, will comprehend it. But most people, unless they deliberately develop themselves in 3 critical areas, most people will just replicate the financial experiences of their past. So even if you know about something better is possible, unless you really develop yourself, you'll just have more of the same. Well, what do you think the good news is? You can change it. You can do it. So the good news is it's absolutely possible to have a different experience. Part of the good news that I want to tell you is it's not for nothing. So kind of like what you've seen with Reverend Marty, who has said, I want to experience vitality in the human body, is the man has got to pick up some weights and do some swimming, which he is clearly doing. Just like you've been practicing around any area of your life where you're like, I know I can experience the divine here, there's a part of embodiment and participation that's required. So the good news is this, and I'm going to show you a tool that is helpful in this area, which is the tool of the money map. And this money map is a framework for understanding that our experience of wealth happens through 3 areas. Our spirituality, which is our connection to the divine about money and wealth, our beliefs, which is our thought, emotion, and conversation, and then our habits, which are our actions and our systems with money. And the map is a framework for putting all 3 of those things together. And this is what, my mission now in the world, my ministry is 100% out in the world speaking and teaching at centers and at business groups and other places with this message, which is you can be what I would call a leader in your wealth life when you put all three things together. And the other good news piece of this is you can move out of fear and into peace, you can move out of victimization and into freedom, you can move out of overwhelm and into order right now. And then your circumstances reflect the elevated consciousness. So for those of you that can grab a bite to eat and come back at 1 o'clock, this is what we'll use in the workshop. If you can't make the workshop, Sarah and I will be out at the table out there, and you can take a copy of the money map home. And if you want to get a book chapter called Escaping the Money Traps, we'll send that to you digitally, so you just write out your name and email, and we'll get that to you. But I want people to kind of feel like if you want to go deeper, the way to go deeper is to really put this into action. And I want to honor, I know that there's been, Mary and a couple of the other folks have been leading a book study using the money keys, and some of you have used that material in the past. So I really want to honor those of you that have applied these principles. What I see is, this is the piece about thriving that's so interesting, is because everything's all connected, like if you work your physical health and vitality, then money, relationship, communication gets better. You work stuff on relationship and it turns out, conversations at work are easier and more peaceful. So there's something kind of beautiful about participating in your spiritual growth is its own reward. True? Yes. All right. And when you do this, there's both individual and collective rewards. So you'll see this affirmation, and Sarah, who's here with me today, we lead a global community of individuals. I mean, folks from Australia and South Africa and Canada and the U.S. who are all interested in spiritual money mastery. And every Friday, we do something called Faithful Friday, which is a practice of gratitude for money and gratitude for spiritual qualities for the week. And then this is an affirmation that we say afterwards. And I think it would be nice for us to say this, and then I'm going to say one thing and we'll move into prayer. But this is what it means to be thriving and inspired around money, is that you put this into action. So let's say this together. We say, I love and respect myself enough to live a financially prosperous and responsible life. And let's say a little But this is what you're capable of when you have a spiritual approach to money, is it's really an act of self-love. It's not an act of greed or avarice for you to have the money in your life be an expression of the divine. And then, because we're all connected, there's no individual accomplishment or expansion or growth that is not a benefit to the world. I really want to say this, that sometimes our centers get a bad rap. People will say, well, you all are just over there trying to make your lives better, but you're not, connected enough to the rest of the world. Well, I think it's a little bit of a both and. Because when we're not worrying about money, we're of better service to the people around us. When we're not upset and resentful about the past, we're more present to be loving and creative in the present moment. So literally, our healing is an upliftment because we're connected to all. And I think it really does make a difference. So the way I see it is we all lift up the world when we're connected to peace and freedom and abundance and generosity. We make a difference. All right. Well, thank you all. Let's anchor this with a spiritual mind treatment, our form of affirmative prayer. So let's take a deep breath together and release it and say, And it's sweet for us to move into prayer, to feel and sense and know that the infinite loving presence of God, one life, that life is God's life, that life is my life, that life is your life, our life, all life. So consciously in this moment, I rise up to the complete surrender that the good of God is all good, all power, all love, all generosity, all peace, all truth, all freedom We're grateful to know this, grateful that the good of God is here in, through, and as each one of us now. And anchored in this, knowing the good of God, I'm honored to speak this word. What I accept and claim is that for all who hear this prayer and all of our brothers and sisters, all religious faiths and traditions and practices, everyone who turns to the light, we turn with them and we say, good is good for all. I claim and accept that there is a deepening of the thriving vitality that is the natural state of God revealed in body, mind, spirit, activity, relationship. All areas of expression and being are vitalized by this beautiful idea that we're one with God. And what I also affirm is that for everyone who's placed their name into the Center's ministry of prayer, that we are lifted up by knowing spiritual truth about each and every one. And I bless all who are connected to our lives, knowing that our individual good is a collective good realized. And I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful that this word, this prayer, is operated upon by law. The law says yes. So I give thanks and let it be. We release the word and trust the law. We let go, we let God be God. And together in agreement, we say, and so it is.